Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever the heck you may be, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to live streaming on Tuesdays. You can call it Lunch with Mike. You can call it whatever you want to call it. The important thing is we are here, we are live, we have a special guest for you today. There is so much information about this guest. I almost said whether she was a he or a she. There's so much information about this guest. I don't know where to start. I'm going to let her tell you all about her. So, if you have a question, I have a question panel over here. Please preference your question with a Q. And that way we can kick it to the top, display it on the screen, get you a little publicity, and we'll roll from there. So, we're about ready to get started. And here we go. See you on the inside. Good morning again. My name is Michael Price, and I am very, very excited to bring you this broadcast today. And we will unfortunately have to manually post the video to the other three platforms other than YouTube. So don't ask me why. We had no problems the first few weeks, but suddenly now LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, for whatever reason, after 15 minutes, drop us. Not a problem. We'll post the whole link to the video. So I'm glad you're here today. And I used to have a camera set up so I could show you what was going on over there. And completely clear, no clouds in the sky. The lake is almost like glass. And for those of you who are saying, oh, really? Jealousy is noted. So we're going to have fun. The problem with most of these broadcasts, live streams, and videos, people don't have fun. And it's just, I can't understand why. And the whole idea is to have fun. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. Who cares? And I guarantee you, I will make at least one mistake. And if you find it, please let us know in the comments. So let's go to the agenda. I don't know why I'm clicking with a mouse, because I have a Stream Deck that does it all for me. I just push a button. So today's agenda, we have a new sponsor, and we will do the guest introduction, which most of that will be done by the guest. Notice I didn't say he or she, the guest. And we're going to do an interview, which is going to be, from what I've seen, putting this show together for you, is unbelievable. And I'm just, I guess, sorry, apologetic, ignorant of the fact that this guest existed and I never knew who she was. More about that later. We will have the guest's presentation, and we'll have a Q&A and a wrap-up. So let's move on to the guest intro. Well, if you don't know who she was, now you know who she is. I am very, very honored and happy to present Marsha Lindquist, the owner, CEO, and Grande Dame, that's D-A-M-E, Grande Dame spelled French way, Granite Leadership Strategies. And I have no idea, well, I kind of do now because I saw the back end, but I really had no idea what she did. Why don't we get started? Marsha, hello.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever we are. I'm where it's sunny. I don't know about you.
You're in,
I'm in Phoenix.
Well, no,
I'm in,
oh yeah, well, Phoenix. Well, good luck on what's going on there.
absolutely.
Now, I have a question for the audience. What is her backdrop? What does it remind you of, and what do you think it represents? I already know, because I guessed it. I'm not that intelligent. Anybody that knows me knows that. I'm not that intelligent. I'm a smart ass, and I believe in humor. If you cannot have fun, do not come to work. And can I get an amen in the comments? Well, Marsha, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I understand that we have some questions for you, but I want to, give you the stage a little bit first to
Okay.
kind of explain yourself. You know what they said in D.C., when you're explaining, you're losing.
Absolutely. And I don't want to be losing. Well, let me say this. I love what I do. I love what I do every day of the week. Most of the work that I do really obviously has to do with government contractors, but my work has to do with the money part of it, as I like to say. I'm the money chick. I'm the one that makes the difference in the pricing that government contractors put forth to the government. I'm the reason that you win. I put together the pricing strategy and I love doing it. I love everything related to the money. I deal with the boring stuff called the accounting, the green eye shade stuff, and I deal with the contract stuff. But my favorite part of what I do has to do with the pricing part of it, making it a win for government contractors. That's my favorite part. I love that. And I love to hear that they win. That makes me pretty excited, you
Have
know.
you noticed over the years, and you've been doing this probably, 15, 20 years, I guess, correct
A
me.
little bit longer than that.
Are we
Okay.
approaching 25 maybe?
We're approaching more than 30.
Beautiful. So that puts you in the elite category of anybody over 3 decades. Which sounds better, 30 years or 3 decades? Let
Three
me know in the
decades is
comments. Yes.
way better. Yeah.
Well, I've passed 3.5 decades. And
Hmm.
last week's guest was Mark Amtower, who is 1 year older than I am, both physically and company wise.
Love it.
So I'm approaching 37 years doing nothing but GSA. He's in 37, going to 38 for nothing but government contracts. Now you're in the what I call the three deco club of people that have been around so long. You obviously know what the heck you're doing.
Well, I somehow have acquired that along the way. And I look back on it sometimes and I go, how did all those years go by so quickly?
Do you
And
remember
I
the
had
first day?
fun.
Do you
I
remember the
do.
first day?
I do remember the first day.
Then
Absolutely
that's
do.
why you're successful. I remember my first day. I remember my first phone call.
Yep.
There was no internet. Faxes had just been invented,
Yes.
1986. And
Yep.
I picked up the phone, PC Magazine, when it was the tall, let me get both of them in there, the tall tabloid as opposed to the magazine that it
Little.
went to eventually. Opened it up, full page ad. I said, let me call this guy PC's Limited. I wonder who the heck this is. Let me call him and talk to him. Guess who answered the phone? Michael
Main
Dell.
guy. Yep. Main guy.
The
Yep.
next year it became Dell Computer, Dell Marketing, Dell Government, Dell whatever. I did his first two GSA contracts. But enough about me. Let's get some of these questions taken care of so we can move
Okay.
on so that I can go catch my tanning session because I can't really
Yeah,
play
I got.
golf yet because of my new shoulder replacement I had back in August. First
Yeah,
question.
I've got ball to play. So here we go.
You had said golf to play?
No ball. We're gonna play ball today.
Okay. You the pitcher?
I'm always the pitcher.
Good. You emphasize early pricing involvement, and I'll let everybody read that. Why is it so important to have a winning pricing strategy? I have one answer, duh.
Well, let me say this. People call me sometimes and they say, Marsha, we need a price to win specialist. And I usually answer with, do you know anybody who wants to bid something to lose? Of course you want to win. Otherwise, why would you bother? Okay. But here's the point of this. The best time to start pricing a proposal is not when the RFP comes out. Hint, hint. Okay. The real answer to that is you need to start it when you're in the pre RFP stages or when you start thinking about bidding the government contract, not when the RFPs come out and we have 2 weeks to go. You used up 2 weeks doing nothing. Okay.
Correct.
Best time to start pricing a proposal is before you actually need to start pricing a proposal. Simply.
Well, I only have one word to say about that.
Awesome.
Let's go to. I digress. I'm sorry. It's what the
That's
heck. Let's go to
okay.
question two. So many federal contractors think they have to work on the pricing is indirect rates and profit. I don't believe that, and I don't ever do pricing. I've done pricing for products, but I had a tool to help me do that, the same one that GSA uses. You're in a whole different, you're outside my pay grade.
So let's talk about it. so many contractors call me and say, Marsha, I have to work on my indirect rates. Someone told me I needed to get to fill in the blank 1.4, 1.7, whatever the number has to be, wrap rate, indirect rate, multiplier, all right, whatever you want to call it. And isn't that all I need to do? The answer is no. Okay. If you do all of the tools that I have in my book, and I'm going to talk about 3 of them right now, you will have room to make a bigger profit. You're kidding me, Marsha. No, I'm not. Absolutely not. Let's talk about some of those. A key pricing tool that I love every single time you step up to the plate to bid. Notice I use the plate. I like baseball analogies a lot, okay? Is to impact your G&A rates. That's the most important and easiest one to you work with. Yes. Is it really an indirect rate thing? Yes, Marsha, it really is. But it's the one that you can move. It's not just a cookbook thing where you take some flour and sugar and add some eggs and we'll throw in the indirect rates and throw profit at it. No. You have a chance every single time you bid to take a look at your G&A rate and how you can impact it by the fact that you're going to win the bid that you're going after, right? Now, let's go to number 2. Number 2 tool that I like to talk about is taking a look at any efficiencies that you may have learned about over the years that you can do something about when you're bidding to show the government that you're faster, leaner, cheaper, better. Okay. You can do it with less hours or less people than your competitor can, or that they've told you that it must be that way. If you get an RFP that says you must bid these hours, you're almost in a low price, technically acceptable mode. You are succumbing to what the government wants you to bid, as opposed to you coming up with a solution. Search for those bids where you can improve the numbers that they want to see from you so that you can show them how smart you are and how much more efficient you are. That's important, okay? Another one that I like to say is take a look at your direct labor rates. Much of what I get to work with clients on is services rather than products, Michael. Okay. And in the services business, the direct labor rates are even more essential than your indirect rates. Because if you don't get those down to where they need to be or up where they need to be in some cases, then you could put the wrong indirect rate on it. You could put the wrong profit on all day long and you would still lose the proposal. So stop focusing just on indirect rates and profit, Michael.
I heard
Okay.
a rumor about a question that you had asked one of your people who was thinking about going after a major RFP, and forgive me, but I had to record the question. $1 million. And it was really kind of interesting. I'm not going to tell you who that was. I'm sure the full audience knows by now who it was. And, of course, they came back to you and said,
why make trillions when we could make billions?
Which is kind of going the wrong way, I believe. Call me crazy. I don't know. So let's go on to question number 3. If government contractors want to make their pricing the best it can be, you basically already answered that question for us. With your permission, we'll just go on to the next one.
Oh, no. I want to talk about this.
Okay.
This is really critical, Michael. Don't you slide over this question. This may be the one linchpin in everybody's bid that sets them apart from everybody else, Michael. Okay. Let's talk about the value proposition in the written pricing document. Okay. It's not just about the price. It's not just about the numbers. It has to also be, Michael, about the value that you bring as a contractor to the government. And more importantly, you're going to tell them about it in your written pricing document, in your pricing narrative, in your price volume. Call it what you want to call it. All right. Let's call it funny bones if we have to, Michael. But the bottom line of it is if you don't tell your government customer how much you are giving them, either in those efficiencies I just talked about, Michael, or in the investments that you're making in the program, and you don't smack them upside the head with it in your pricing document, you will not have finished doing the pricing, in my opinion, because most competitors to you will not do this. They will not write about the value proposition that they have in the price volume, and more importantly, put a dollar value on it for the government so that the government goes, duh, why don't I choose this contractor? Okay? You need to have that right up front in the pricing volume so that you can make a difference. Okay?
I was not aware of that. I didn't have a
You
sound effect for
can.
that one.
All right.
I do, but it wasn't queued up. I'm sorry. So,
That's all right.
next question. Number 4. Some government contractors have many indirect rates. This kind of touches on question 2, I believe, a little bit.
A little.
Well, let's expand on that. And what are the most common types?
Okay. So most contractors are going to have a fringe rate, an overhead rate, maybe a G&A rate, probably. Okay. But there are other contractors that have, let's call it, facility service centers, or IT service centers. A lot of contractors have a material handling rate. Some contractors have a subcontract handling rate. Some contractors combine material handling and subcontract into one indirect rate. Okay. Um, Now, people ask me all the time, Marsha, I really don't want to charge a full G&A on our subcontractors. What should I do? And I usually say something like, well, if you don't have enough subcontracted business, then you have no business doing a subcontract handling rate. You're gonna mess with your own G&A and drive it up. So what's my barometer? I usually tell people if it's not 30% of your business base, the subcontracts or the materials, you have no business coming up with that rate. And people say, well, where'd you get that number, Marsha? Is that in the regulations? No, it's not. It's based on 30 plus years of experience. Simply that. The other thing that I say here is some contractors have one fringe rate. Do you need more? Sometimes you do. Sometimes you need more than one fringe rate if, in fact, you have a large amount of Service Contract Act work, meaning that you're going to be paying those people a lot more fringe costs than you would pay the rest of the population. So you may want to separate those two, okay? Some people have a collective bargaining agreement or a union contract. You want to separate that out. Some contractors may have part-time, full-time. Some differences there. It depends on your business. The answer to all of number 4 is it depends on your business, Michael.
Well, that was wonderful. Number 5. What do you suggest a contractor do when they don't have a repeatable process? Can I answer this one?
Yes, please.
Call Marsha.
That's one way.
Because
one way.
2 words that I use, and it's on my website, experience matters. I just had shoulder surgery done, had a reverse shoulder put in. And interesting because, without telling the whole story, it got to the point where, I dislocated my shoulder, fractured the humerus ball, went to a local, through the VA, they sent me to Dr. Cuff, who is known for rotator cuff surgery. How in the heck did his mother ever give him the name Derek Cuff? I had 2 hours prep, 2 hours recovery. The surgery was an hour and a half, 93 minutes. And I'm thinking, when are we going to start? He says, we're done. Go home.
Right.
So it's all about how the experience is. And this guy I go to any grocery store. I'm in Florida, so I go to Winn-Dixie or I go to Publix, which if you're in the Virginia metro area, it's called Giant. And everywhere I go, I'm wearing a harness or a sling, and they go, oh, I know who did your surgery. 19 people told me they had done either theirs or somebody in their family. Experience matters. And I believe in that saying day in and day out. But my first answer was the best. Call Marsha.
Love it. And you will get the best from me every single time. But there's also a checklist for how you come up with a process for developing your pricing. Yes, there is a process to doing it, but how you do it, that takes the art. That's where the experience counts. But if you want the checklist, you can get it. It's in the book, free.
I have a friend of mine who used to be a presidential advisor. I'm not going to tell you which presidents, plural. He's got a thing that's going on now. He's tied in pretty tight with the Florida government and retired from the White House. And we're getting ready to put together a bombshell presentation. And the title is, he said it, but I came up with the title, If You Can't Track It, You Can't Manage It. And
that
it
is so
has to do
true.
with small business. Those of you listening, watching, whatever you're doing or whatever you're going to do as far as watching it on our channel or watching it on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook, again, the experience matters, but this is all going to be about small business, which means Marsha's going to probably end up with some business. Eileen's going to end up with business. Mark Amtower is going to end up with business because now I've presented to everybody in the 700,000 plus people that are registered to do business with the government on SAM, which I blow out probably 2 or 3 emails a month promoting all these people. And that means that there's going to be more ways to track, therefore you can manage. So little side note there. Let's go on to the last one so we can get to you. I'm sorry, number 5. So we can get to your presentation, which might touch a little bit of this again, but I think it's going to be far more in depth. And I'm sure there's a way that they can get the slides, or we also want to talk about your book.
Yep.
If it's available on Amazon or Audible or whatever, we want to talk about that near the end. Some government contractors have.
Oh, no, we did this. Go to 6. Go to 6.
That's right, I did. Why am I going backwards?
Well,
I
because
told you.
maybe it's that
Who
reverse
found the mistake?
rotator
Let
cuff.
me know, please.
It's that reverse rotator cuff.
This is the bad one. I'm using this one.
Okay.
Maybe I should use this one. That's the new one.
It's a new one.
I tore all 7 muscles, just, for your own personal information. But I thought about showing the x-rays, but I didn't want to drive people away. So anyway, This is a long one, so I'm going to shut up and let you handle it.
All right. So I love to talk about teammates all the time. Okay. And I love to talk about also how your teammates can screw up your proposal pricing really badly. Okay. So if you are a subcontractor, okay, cooperate with them. Let me put it that way. So let's talk about a few things. You want it to be the best it can be, because you don't want to sabotage this win. You want them to win so that you can win. It's real simple. Okay. So that means to cooperate. Now, how do you cooperate? Let's start at the top here. We're going to participate in agreeing on the pricing strategy. If they are not, they being the prime, inviting you in to talk about the pricing strategy, you need to horn your way in there and be pushy about it, okay? Be part of the decision-making process and be part of their philosophy, because if they dictate it to you, you're just an order taker. Be part of the solution, be part of the word team and teammates, okay? Be a mate that helps them come up with the right philosophy and the right process for your price, right? Actually make sure if you are part of a team, get some preliminary pricing for your prime. You should be ready just as much as the prime should be ready. You should be preparing your own management, your own leadership for what kind of pricing you're going to sign up for, that you're going to give that prime contractor, right? So even if you haven't been asked for it by the prime contractor, then get ready for it, because you need to do that. The other thing is, if you're working for a big, huge prime contractor, they're going to have some standard process. But if you're not working for a big one, then either expect or ask for your schedule. What are they going to want from you and when? What are the data calls that they're going to have for you? Make sure you know the requirements, the ground rules and assumptions. Get all that from your prime contractor. If they are not giving it to you, then insist on C. Insist on that information. Otherwise, how are you going to be a great teammate? Okay. Make sure that you ask to emphasize your efforts where your price is competitive. In other words, if they say, well, we can't give you everything, we can only give you this much or that percentage or whatever, make sure you fight for where you as a company are strong, not only about the price, okay, but also about your talent. So you want to make sure that you are highlighting for your prime contractor where you are good, not only where you're good on the talent, but good on the price, okay? If you are part of a team, then participate in giving customer intelligence information to the team whenever possible. Now, I'm talking about legally, that you've obtained information about your customer. Make sure you share it with your team, okay? Make sure if you are expected to provide cost data or just price. Do they want details or do they want just the bottom line price? Make sure you find that out ahead of time. If they want details from you, some of that information is not theirs to know, okay? If that's true, then you need to shield your proprietary information from them, okay? Also, help them out. Give them historical price information on your company where you've done a particular effort like the same one you're bidding before. Give them your historical information so that they can see that you're not just jacking up the price, that you have, in fact, their best interest and their back at heart, because they have to do a price analysis on you. They're required to do that. Help them out with that information. There you go, Mike.
Wonderful. Now, to address the cost and pricing data, and I don't remember how far back it went, but I do remember, of course, again, I remember day one, but I could probably go through and remember each day. But what it ultimately was if you were either a manufacturer or a reseller, which means dealer, distributor. Distributors are
Right.
prohibited from getting a GSA contract. It has to be a dealer or a manufacturer. And GSA used to say if you're a reseller, which encompasses dealer and everything below that, you have to give us your cost, and we're going to allow you at a maximum of 10% mark up. Somebody took them to court and won. They're not allowed to. Nobody in. I don't know if it's in. I'm sure it's in the FAR. Nobody's allowed to ask for cost and pricing data anymore. Now,
That's right.
correct me if I'm wrong. I'll go back and look at the FAR because it's not something I sit there every day and read over coffee and a cigar in the morning. But I love being corrected. And it's not about being right. My motto is it's not about being right, it's about never being wrong. Which doesn't mean if you're not wrong, you're right. You could be, well, I'm not a fast cook, I'm not a slow cook, I'm a fill in the blank cook. Anyway, moving on. Let's get to why we all came today. We want to watch you in action.
All right. Let's do it.
My microphone automatically mutes. You're on your own. If you need anything,
Holler. So today we're going to talk about some processes and strategies surrounding strategic pricing. So let's talk about this for just a minute. But first, I want to tell you just a quick shot about me. Yes, Michael, I've been in GovCon for 40 years, 26 just in consulting on my own. I already told you I do pricing, accounting, and contracts. I have a couple of fellows designations under my belt, and I am APMP professionally accredited. I am the #1 best-selling Amazon author of Secrets of Strategic Pricing for Government Contractors. Published last June. It is out there on Amazon. It's also on our website. You can get to a link to it as well. And I also put out the GovCon Expert newsletter every month, twice a month actually. And we put articles related to government contracting in our newsletter. Enough about me. Let's move on to the good stuff we have today. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about some top practices and processes that you want to use every time you put together a bid, okay? We're also going to talk about the best pricing strategies that you may have forgotten about or never used. It's not a secret, although I did call it a secret. We're going to find out why pricing is so important earlier in the process than your executives think. So let's move into it. Let's talk about the strategic pricing approach. What is that anyway, Marsha? Let's talk about it. Here's my motto. If price is so important, then you must make it a top priority. Stop relegating it to the last 2 weeks or the last day before you submit a bid. If money is so important to you, change the word price with money, then you must make it a top priority. Move it earlier in the process and throughout the process. So then I put together this wonderful chart, very complex, of my anatomy of a winning price strategy. You can see it's very, very, very complex, right? There are things in here that are on the outside moving into the strategy. On the outside, we're talking about finding out about gathering data, finding out about our competitors, finding out about our customer, finding out about our own company and the business space. If you don't know what your own business space looks at, you can't. You see down the bottom there, it says impact this bid. That's what I meant by doing a G&A rate impact. If you don't know what you start with, then how can you know what you want to end up with for this particular bid? So that's important. Gathering data is very, very critical. And you would do that early in the process. You would not be doing this when the RFPs come out and you've got 2 weeks to go. All right. So what else are you doing early in the game? You're making some decisions and making some deliberate actions. Like what, Marsha? Oh my God. You are taking a look at your strategic pricing plan. You should come up with a strategic pricing plan that mirrors or sits alongside your capture plan and sits alongside your business plan. Hopefully you are identifying long lead items that you need to have your executive management make decisions about. You're putting that in front of everybody for them to know what they want to do, right? So that's an important part of this. Another one that I like to talk about is, what is your company investments in this program? Well, what do you mean by that, Marsha? What I mean by that is, for example, if you have a facility and you're not going to charge the government totally for that facility, and some of it your company is going to pony up the cost for, well, that's an investment in that program. Okay. You also need to be taking a look at your gate reviews. How are you doing with respect to seeing the decisions that you're making along the way? Okay. Now, going further into the center, we'll take a look at the value that you're bringing. You're bringing in your team wisdom that I talked about earlier in the answer to that question. We're talking about the various kinds of differentiators that makes us different than our competition. We're taking a look at what are our customers' hot buttons, what are their needs and wants. We're taking a look at your own strengths. We're taking a look at money. Where's the money that you are touching? It touches everything. It touches your teammates. It touches your technical competencies. You're trading off your technical stuff for money. Oh, we want to do all of that technical stuff, but geez, it's going to blow the price up. Well, that's a consideration that you need to be making. And that all of these things go into your strategy. And when you come up with your strategy, you're doing that early on in the process. It's very, very important that we come up with our proposal pricing plan early enough, with all of these things involved in coming up with that strategy. Okay. All right. Let's talk about some top practices and processes. Okay. If you want repeatable wins, you got to do some practices and processes that you are going to want to do over and over and over with every single bid. Okay. All right. Early pricing. You want to win more? Then you need to get involved in pricing earlier in the process. During the capture process is my favorite time. Okay. Or pre-RFP, if you want to call it that. or even before you begin to actually get an RFP draft or otherwise. You want to begin to lay down the framework for your pricing in some kind of an internal pricing model so that you can begin to put the numbers in front of your leaders, okay? You need to get price to win information and competitive assessment. It's a must. Those two go hand in glove together. Usually this is done by outsiders. I do not do price to win and competitive assessment because it is competitive information that I do not want to relate to your competition. You wouldn't want me to take your information and give it out to everybody who comes along, okay? So that's an important piece of this, okay? Let's talk about getting to know your teaming partners. I talked about it a little bit in that Q&A that we had earlier, but your teaming partners are very, very, very critical to your win. This is not just, wait until the RFP comes out in order for you to get to know them. You should be doing that in the preliminary stages during the time at which you are kind of learning to dance. Now, you don't want to exchange pricing information until you have a signed teaming agreement, certainly, but you do want to be able to get to know them with some preliminary prices, maybe even get some historical information from them if you're the prime contractor. You want to become at ease with your teaming partners so that you can easily and readily have discussions about pricing, okay? So you need to have green team pricing reviews. This is when, how could I say this? Most green team reviews happen one time, sometimes two, okay? I advocate for 3 green team pricing reviews at a minimum, sometimes even more than that. If it's a big procurement, you should be doing 4 or 5, okay? If it's going to take you months to put something together, then you need to have green team pricing reviews on a regular basis. What do I mean by that? Depends on the size of the procurement, but you need to begin to have those because in the first pricing review, you're probably not going to have very much pricing to review. You're going to be coming up with your pricing strategy plan. What is it that you're going to be doing to put this pricing together? What are going to be your ground rules? What are your assumptions? Maybe you're meeting your teammates. In the second review, maybe you've done a very preliminary internal pricing model so that you can begin to give your executives and your management a little looky-see at what the pricing looks like. You're advancing how much information that you are not only getting, but you're sharing with your management and a team as you move along in the process. That's why you do it very often. When people do 1 or 2 pricing reviews at the end, you are allowing your leadership the latitude to make slashes to the pricing without any rhyme or reason to it. They become emotional answers for you as the pricing team because you haven't begun to put those pricing numbers in front of them often and frequently, okay? The important audit file. Oh my God, I can't emphasize this enough. As you are putting your pricing together, you should be putting together your audit file. That's going to be a track of everything that you've done on that particular proposal and also the documentation, all of your negotiations with your subcontractors, all of the data that went into coming up with your indirect rates, or maybe you did a profit analysis, maybe you did a risk assessment. All of that information goes into that audit file, not so much for audit, but so that you, as a contractor, know what you did 6 months down the road when you get questions and answers from the government, to know what you did. It's very, very critical that you do that. All right, let's talk about some best pricing strategies. These are not secrets, people. These are things that I write about all the time because I want people to know they are not a secret. All right, so maybe you have forgotten about them or maybe you've never used them. Let's talk about them. I mentioned already earlier that you've got to get price to win. You have to know what your target is. How do you know what you want your ultimate price to be, your target price to be, if you haven't gotten a price to win. Otherwise, it becomes your leadership's, shall I say, emotional reaction to what they think the price is. If someone actually has done a price to win analysis, then you have a range, plus and minus, of where those need to be, of where your target needs to be. Get an actual price to win analysis done for your opportunity. Okay. I mentioned earlier in the Q&A to impact your G&A. Every time you step up to bid, you have the opportunity to change your G&A rate scientifically, okay, with the numbers, because you're going to win more business. You are changing the denominator of that G&A. You're probably not changing your G&A expenses, but you are changing your business base. The exception to this would be if you're going after a recompete. You're probably not changing the G&A base very much, if at all. Okay. Let's talk about obtaining current and accurate salary data. I can't emphasize this one enough. There are so many sources out there for you to consider for salary data. You have your own historical data inside your company. You have Economic Research Institute, ERI data, which you have to pay for, but it's accurate salary data. There are salary surveys. Yes, you can go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but it's not going to be what people are currently paying. It's going to be what people have been paid. Okay. You can also go to Western Management Group survey. You could go to a Mercer survey. There are a lot of salary surveys out there for you to consider, but go get salary data, not just what you think it's going to be based upon your left elbow feel. Okay. Yes, you can use salary.com. You can use those kinds of things, but that's not what people are being paid. It's what people are hoping to get. It's market driven rather than factual. Okay. Another one, acquire historical and current escalation studies. Escalation right now is higher than it's been in the last 40 years. Let me put it that way. If you want to accurately project what you want to use for escalation, go get historical from your own company or go pay for an escalation study. Okay. You can also take a look at Bureau of Labor Statistics for salary information escalation rates through history. You could go to the Congressional Budget Office to get their projection, but they are very, very, very high in their projections. If you're still bidding 2% escalation, you got to ask yourself, why would you do that when escalation is running much, much higher? Okay. Let's talk about developing preliminary teammate pricing and vendor quotes. I sort of alluded to this earlier today when we talked about having your teammates be part of your pricing solution. Get some preliminary numbers from them. Once you've signed your teaming agreement, then you can begin to start talk about pricing. You may not know the technical solution yet. I get that, but you could begin to get some idea of what that means to you for your prices. Get your vendor quotes. You can certainly go out there and get those. Those do not need to have a technical solution. All right. So why is early pricing so important? If you don't know the answer to this question right now, after all we've talked about, I'd be surprised. Okay. So I put together a picture, right? Whenever I need something, sometimes a picture is going to be worth 1,000 words. These are all the things that you can do to get involved with pricing early before the RFP comes out. Why? Because you want the best price. See that book down there with a big award on it, a gold award on it? That's what you want. What can you do? Well, here's all the things you can be doing. Okay. You could do some top-down analysis. You can negotiate with teammates and vendors. You can investigate your indirect rate sensitivity. You can get your long lead item cost information together. There is a host of information that you could be doing and should be doing right here in this picture. Why? Because you want to win, don't you? If not, then keep doing it the way you've always been doing it. Okay? It's really important. That's why I'm jiggling it for you. Okay. Let's talk about some nice to consider pricing strategies. Things that are a little bit out there maybe, but I'd like to plant a seed for you so that you will begin to think about it. Yes, they're out there. I get that. Okay. I talked about efficiencies earlier. If you have a better, faster way of doing something that saves the government schedule, time, resources, money, and you could be more efficient than your competitors, then you need to not only bid it that way, but you need to talk about it in that pricing volume, in that value proposition that I talked about. Okay. Now, here's the other thing, uncompensated overtime. Sometimes it's a valuable tool in lowering your price. When is it valuable? Usually when you're bidding cost plus work. It's not going to make a bit of a difference when you're bidding fixed price or you're bidding T&M. So contract type matters. Okay. What else? Well, I want you to put an executive summary in the business volume. But Marsha, they don't ask for that. You're right. They don't. They never do. But you have the latitude to do it. Why? Because you can. There's no page limitation usually on about 99% of the cost volumes that I've been doing in the last 40 years out there. Okay. And why not? And that executive summary is different than the technical executive summary. It is totally geared to numbers. It's geared to pricing. It's geared towards telling your government evaluator why you are the best money choice for them. Okay. Let's talk about some what I call select pricing myths, things that people hear out there all the time, which may or may not be true. All right, they don't make it. Let's talk about my first one. I love this one. This is at the top because it's my favorite. If we focus on getting to a wrap rate of fill in the blank, then we will win. You may win, but you also may lose. And there's no guarantee that that wrap rate was the only answer to your prayers. Okay. So rework all of the various things in your pricing, not just the wrap rate. If you work to just get a wrap rate, you still may lose. All right. We need to wait to start pricing after the RFP drops or after we finish the technical solution. Otherwise, we're wasting time and money. No, you're not. Why do I say that? Because of all those things I talked about in that chart that said early pricing involvement, there's a lot of things that you get to do without having the technical solutioning in your face. Okay. There are a lot of things that you can lay down or put in front of your management for decisions that need to be made. And you can also, by the way, do some early internal modeling of that technical solution that's got all kinds of pipe dreams in it that will cost way too much. Let's get those numbers in front of your management early on and not wait till the technical solution is finished. Okay. All right. I love this one. Since our company income statement says we're making a profit, then it does not matter what the project profitability will be. Every project you bid, profitability matters. Every single one. You may make money, a lot of money on one project and lose money on the other. You don't want to be in the situation where you are losing money on a project. So the profitability of each project does matter. It matters to your leadership. I hope it matters to you as well. All right, let's talk about this. We don't need price to win information since we know the agency's budget. The agency's budget, notice I'm getting closer. The agency's budget is their budget. It's not what it takes to win the project. That agency budget has some percentage in it for them to run their own program. Go find out price to win information, everybody. All right. So, and this may be my last one. Our unallowable costs do not impact any of our bid pricing. Wrong. Your unallowable cost, and if you don't know the rate for that, you need to figure it out because it will eat into your profit. Your unallowable costs are not recoverable under government contracting. You need to know what that rate is. If you don't know what that rate is, go find it out, because it'll impact the profitability of every single project that you bid. All right, let's talk. We've got questions.
I'm back. I hate to admit this to you, but
Uh-oh.
yeah. Why does everybody assume it's negative? It's not negative. You did too good a job. Can we start over without the initial questions and the explanations and everything else so that people say, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, I
They
know.
know.
I know. They
I thought
know.
about throwing a couple feeder questions in there, but not really. So we're going to move over to the
I'm going
Q&A.
to say thank you.
That might be asking too much.
Well, that would be if anybody wasn't fully vetted on everything they've got. My question is, I always have to have a question. You know, they say, you got questions, we got answers. God, that was a great
Right?
store. I'm so
It
sorry
was.
they shut down. For those of you that aren't old enough, that was called Radio Shack.
It was.
And it's a long story, long history. And before that, there was Lafayette Electronics. Marsha would remember because you're almost old enough. And
I'm almost.
almost. And actually, I'm coming up on number 72 in July. So I don't want to hear it. You never ask a lady how old she is. Well, if you do, you say, oh, today's your birthday. You're 29 years old with X number of years experience. And that always gets you off the hook. I've never been slapped yet for that. But then again, as soon as I say that, next time I go to a restaurant, I'm sure I'm going to get nailed. So that's beside the point. When I was at Honeywell back in the 80s, and for those of you that remember possibly the movie War Games, and I don't have the sound effect, Shall We Play a Game? I worked that program with Honeywell. And the sixth floor of the Ivory Tower in McLean, Virginia, which most people know as Tyson's Corner, we had a whole floor of nothing but proposal prep team, and I lost count of how many huge Xerox copiers were there. And it was just absolutely incredible the job they did. And we won the recompete on that, which was a 10-year. We had it the first 10 years, then the second 10 years. It evolved into other classified areas that I was sworn never to say. But let's put it this way. We started putting the stuff in trailers. And I guess that was probably the precursor to what we now know as drone pilots who sit out in the desert in Las Vegas, or basically just Nevada, and they're flying airplanes 3 to 5,000 miles away. Which, even at my age, I wonder if they'll hire me as a drone pilot. I doubt it, because I have no conscience. You push that button to execute, and people hesitate. There's no hesitation. You were given an order: fire. Deal with it later. So, be that as it may, that was what I consider to be one of the best presentations I have ever seen. And quite frankly, I do believe that that would probably warrant a. So let's wrap this puppy up.
Awesome!
Yeah. Marsha, I would definitely love to have you back again.
I would too.
Have some potential teaming people that I'd like to send your way that would, fill in the holes that you have, just like you're filling in the holes that I have. I didn't realize how many craters I had until I started this thing back in November 8th with Eileen. And we've come a long way. And I have to say that from my side of it, because I practice quite a bit, is the quality of the presentations are always excellent. And that's why I spend a lot of time, formatting that slide area to make it so that it's absolutely fantastic for the presenter. And hopefully we can continue to get it even better and better. For those of you who did not make it on YouTube, I will be later today. And by the way, this live stream has gone directly to YouTube. There'll be no editing, no cleaning up. I'm not taking the mistakes out because I like mistakes. And
Yep.
if you don't have mistakes, that means you edited it. Wow, that's a mouthful, especially at my old age. But anyway, I really appreciate you being here, and
Thank you.
the we need well, you put up your contact information so people know how to get a hold of you, which is good. And if anybody still needs to get a hold of Marsha, please feel free to contact me on our website, bottom left corner, email address, everything you need, phone number. Give me a call. I'll get you in touch with Marsha right away. So with that having been said, whew, tongue twist. I probably need to have another shot of Diet Cola.
Now, Michael, can people can go to my website,
What is
Granite
it?
Leadership www.graniteleadershipstrategies.com, and they can also see there's a book page there. There's at the top. There's a thing called book. They can go there and take a look at what's in it, and then they can click forward to buy it if they wanted to buy it. You know.
Well, the funny thing is, if you say that was in the old days in software, that was called shareware. Here it is. Use it if you like it. Make a contribution. Or buy it or whatever. I like that idea. I wrote a book back in '94, Employee's Guide to Government Sales, Marketing, and Contracts, which obviously has been drastically changed. And of course, Mark Amtower came in and said, "Here's how you do it right and become a bestseller." So I give the thing away now as a precursor. I think we're going to do a little edit on it and actually add a link to his book, and I'd like to also add a link to your book and every other presenter's book, and we'll move on from there. So let's wrap this puppy up, and we look forward to seeing you again. I mean, it's been absolutely enjoyable. I actually went outside where it's about 75 degrees now, jealousy noted, and no rain, more jealousy noted for you. And I was actually watching the presentation on my phone, and I'm thinking, oh, I finally did it right. I'll be done. So with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. And please make sure you watch the replay. It'll be on our YouTube channel at MarketUS, and I will put it on all of the other social platforms. So if you are on LinkedIn in the Government Contractors Network, we'll probably put it there as well as my main page. And I enjoyed this presentation. I didn't have to do anything. I pushed a few buttons.
That's it.
And I was done. Let me see if this button works. So we're gonna step aside here and let you folks go enjoy your late lunch. And by the way, we started at 1 and it's 1:58. So pretty good timing. I think we've pretty much got this puppy down good. So thank you everybody again, and enjoy your day.